Did you know that the chicken Alfredo pasta at Olive Garden packs over 1,700 calories? That's how many calories a lot of people need in an entire day. But what if you could splurge on creamy chicken Alfredo without sabotaging your diet? Or better yet, what if you could even lose weight by eating chicken Alfredo? In this video, I'm gonna reveal how you can make a delicious one-pot chicken Alfredo that's just as satisfying as Olive Garden's, but with only a third of the calories. Along the way, I'll show you a pasta hack I learned while testing this recipe that will upgrade your meal prep game forever. Let's get into it. The first thing we need is a slow cooker, but before we get started, we need to address a huge mistake that trips up many home cooks. After testing well over 100 one-pot recipes, I kept running into the same frustrating issue. It's like trying to lose 50 pounds in just a couple of months by cutting out all the food you love, surviving on carrot and spinach smoothies, and just hoping for the best. After a few weeks, the cravings hit hard. Oh, fuck. Oh. Next thing you know, you're glued to food videos, fantasizing about every bite. Pour that chicken broth in. Yeah, like that. Inevitably, you quit the diet and regain all the weight, but what if you took it slow, losing 1 or 2 pounds a week while still eating lower calorie versions of the food you love? You'd likely stick with the diet and reach your goals. The same goes for one-pot recipes. People expect a 5-star meal by tossing everything into a pot and walking away, but what they get is bland food they don't want to eat, and it just sits in the fridge until it's thrown away. If they just invested 5 or 10 extra minutes building layers of flavor, they'd have a meal worthy of 5 stars, meaning they could enjoy it for months or even years. If you're willing to put in those few extra minutes, you can transform your cooking from just okay to absolutely crave-worthy. So you can throw everything in a slow cooker and call it a day, but throughout the video, I'll show you a few simple ways to elevate this meal prep to another planet. My personal slow cooker is a Ninja Foodie, which has several other functions, including a sear saute setting. We'll go ahead and turn that on. There are plenty of other multi-cookers out there with the same function, but if you don't have one, a large pan on medium heat works just as well. Now let's get the chicken and garlic prepped. I've got a value pack of budget-friendly chicken breasts ready to go. This nearly 6-pound pack is perfect for making this meal prep twice. Later in the video, I'll show you how to store the extra so they stay fresh for months so we don't waste a penny. Now, if these aren't prepped correctly, we won't get the beautiful browning on our chicken, which is key to build that flavor we just talked about. But what do we need to do? It's simple. We'll take 1,008 grams of chicken and pat both sides of the breast dry with paper towels. Moisture on the surface of the chicken will prevent it from browning properly, so this step is crucial. Then any small pieces of fat we'll leave on, but if there are any large pieces, we'll simply cut them away. In a separate small bowl, let's press 10 grams of garlic, then add 10 grams of olive oil to our pot. Since this specific pot has a raised center, I'll spread the oil around to make sure the entire surface of each breast has contact with the pan. Now we'll carefully lay each chicken breast in the pan, ensuring as much of the surface is touching it for maximum browning. It might be a tight squeeze, but if your pan has a 9-inch cooking surface, all 3 breasts should fit. While the first side browns for 3 to 4 minutes, let's prep the rest of our ingredients. Into a measuring cup, we'll add 500 grams chicken broth, and in a separate small bowl, we'll add 24 grams better than bouillon chicken base. This will enhance the pasta sauce with a richer chicken flavor while also adding depth and umami, creating a more complex and satisfying dish. Then into another small bowl, add 84 grams low-fat cream cheese and 112 grams 2% cottage cheese. There's no need to blend the cottage cheese. It'll mix perfectly into the sauce after cooking. In the last small bowl, combine 3 grams garlic powder and 2 grams black pepper. And after 4 minutes, our breasts are looking like this. I'll spread the oil around again, flip the chicken to the other side, and repeat for the other 2 breasts. After another 4 to 5 minutes, the breasts are beautifully browned on both sides, and we'll place them back on the cutting board. We also want to saute the garlic to develop a sweet, aromatic flavor. Drop it in the oil, mix it around, and let it cook for about 30 to 40 seconds or until fragrant. Remove it from the pan, place it back in the bowl, and put the crock pot onto the slow cooker setting. You see these crispy bits in the bottom of the pan? That's pure flavor, but it's stuck down there. Don't worry, It's super easy to release. Just pour about 1/3 of our broth into the pan and use the liquid to scrape those bits loose. If you brown the chicken in a separate pan, you would follow this same process and pour Ricky's flavor juice into the slow cooker. Now let's add the rest of our broth and put the cup back on the scale. I didn't want to clean another dish, so I'm going to add 360 grams 2% milk to the measuring cup and pour that in with the broth along with our chicken breast and any juices they leaked out onto the cutting board. Around the chicken, we'll add our better than bouillon, cream cheese, cottage cheese, garlic powder, and black pepper. Uh-oh. You might notice that some of the chicken is sitting above the liquid. That's okay. If it looks like this, everything will cook fine, but if you have some super thick chicken breasts, you can cut them in half before adding them back into the slow cooker. Now, you can either cook this on low for 5 to 6 hours or on high for 3 to 4 hours, but since there's dairy in here that I don't want to curdle, I'd prefer to cook on low for 5 to 6 hours. But before we kick back, there are 2 essential steps we need to take. First, we need to make sure our extra chicken doesn't spoil. For that, I'm grabbing a medium vacuum seal bag. After packing and sealing the bag with our breasts, we can toss it in the freezer. When it's time to make another batch of chicken Alfredo, just place the chicken on a sheet pan to thaw for a couple of hours, then start back at step 1, like this video. Now, let's talk about the pasta portion of this recipe because honestly, it gave me problems over and over again during testing. I know I'm laughing, but it was extremely frustrating. I tried adding the noodles near the end, but if they sat for too long, the pasta turned to mush. When I cooked the pasta for just a few minutes before adding the other ingredients, some noodles were perfectly cooked, while others were still hard. And don't even get me started on the sauce. I couldn't tell if it was thick enough until it was completely cooled because of the starch in the noodles. That is a real pain in the ass because if it was too runny, I'd have to reheat the entire thing and simmer it again before I could eat or pack the rest of my meals. I knew I needed to find a solution. During my research, I came across an article on Serious Eats by none other than Kenji Lopez Alt, where he explains that you don't actually need boiling water to make pasta. You can just let the pasta soak instead. I wanted to soak it for 6 to 12 hours, which sounded great in theory. The problem is, Kenji didn't mention exact soaking times, and neither did anyone else on the internet, so I decided to run an experiment for myself. I submerged fettuccine in an inch of water for 1 hour, 3 hours, 12 hours, and 24 hours. I wanted to see if there were any differences in texture and doneness, so you could prep this next to the slow cooker before work and come home 12 hours later without finding noodles that turned to mush. Here's what I found. The 1 hour soak slightly softened the pasta, but it still needed a good amount of cooking to finish. The 3 hour soak was perfect. It only needed a quick hit of heat to fully cook through, but I wanted to leave the fettuccine for the full 5 to 6 hours and still get the same effect. What amazed me was that both the 12 and 24 hour pasta soak had the same texture and chew as the 3 hour soak. This means you can start the pasta up to 24 hours ahead and forget about it until it's time for the slow cooker. Now, let's prep the pasta. Grab a large, shallow dish and fill it with about 1 inch of room temperature water. Place 308 grams of fettuccine or linguine into the dish. If your dish isn't long enough, just break the pasta in half. And now you're free to hit the gym for an absolutely nasty pump with some top-tier pre-workout, or just relax and watch The Penguin while the slow cooker does all the work for you. When the slow cooker is done, or whenever you're ready, make sure the chicken has reached 165 degrees and get your other ingredients ready. While we finish the recipe, we also want to set the slow cooker on high so we can get some residual heat. The last of the ingredients we need are 3 grams salt and 28 grams of freshly shredded Parmigiano Reggiano. Now, when you pull out the chicken, you may notice it looks like a cow had diarrhea from her udders. Don't worry, it tastes infinitely better than it looks and will come together with time, I promise. We'll start by whisking the liquid for 20 to 30 seconds. This will help combine everything, but there will still be little chunks floating around. So how do we get rid of those chunks and turn this into a thick, creamy Alfredo sauce? We'll need a starch, but not just any starch. As we mentioned earlier, the temperature of the liquid in the slow cooker is only around 170 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's the issue. Cornstarch won't thicken sauce until the liquid hits around 200 degrees. But Here's the great news. There are other starches on the market, and one of my favorites is potato starch. Potato starch starts thickening around 140 degrees, which is key because as we add more ingredients, the temperature of the pot will drop even further. So let's add 20 grams potato starch and 30 grams water to a bowl, then mix until smooth to create a slurry. Along with the slurry, let's add the garlic, salt, and parmesan into the slow cooker. Give the liquid another whisk, and while it's still hot, we'll add our noodles. Even though the noodles are soft from soaking, they're still raw, but about 90 seconds in warm liquid will cook them through. Grab the noodles out of the water, let them drip for about 10 to 15 seconds, then add them to the pot and mix well. Kind of like I added this recipe to the cookbook over a month ago, and cookbook owners have been loving it ever since. Every recipe is packed with flavor, so you actually look forward to each meal while still crushing your fitness goals. Join the thousands, including myself, who have lost a ton of weight using these recipes and get all 160 today. Click the link in the description and use code E4CM for 10% off the book. It's important to stay full, and while this meal prep has volume, it's missing fiber. So I decided to keep it simple and grab a bag of broccoli. We'll heat it in the bag for about 30 seconds less than the instructions say because it will soften even more in the sauce. While that's cooking, I'm gonna grab my favorite kitchen tool, this smash piece, to break these breasts into bite-sized pieces. Now, let's toss 300 grams of broccoli into the slow cooker along with the shredded chicken. Give everything a good mix. I like using tongs here because they help mix everything without breaking the noodles, which keeps the meal looking restaurant quality. The sauce does look a little bit thin still, but as soon as it cools down, it will thicken up. The same thing will happen after reheating from the fridge, but once the pasta is mixed, it'll be Gucci bandanas. After the pasta cools, separate it into 5 containers and refrigerate. Simply reheat it in the microwave for 2 to 3 minutes, and you will notice that this chicken Alfredo pasta gets more delicious with every bite. And with 66 grams of protein, it'll easily fill you up until your next meal. But how do you make sure your next meal doesn't undo all your hard work? This beef stroganoff meal prep is ridiculously easy to make, and with 65 grams of protein, combining these 2 meals will keep you full all day and all night. Until next time, deuces.